Good evening, Cubes of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and my co-host this evening is none other than Digger Jim himself.
Hey guys,
Jim, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I am recovering on the mend from the big Covina, but I'm getting there. Thank you for having me.
And our guest of honor, the man who puts the dye in his mustache. We have Cole from Cole's Comic Claims. How you
I
doing,
told you specifically not to tell people that I dye my mustache. My hair is natural, but my mustache is normally red.
Right. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm great. So happy to finally get you on the show. I mean, you have as happens with this program, sometimes schedules are tough to connect with. I'm glad we finally got to get you because you and I talked about it once or twice and it wasn't a fit.
Yeah, I think that like a long time ago. And yeah, it was one of those where I was like, can you come on tonight? And I was like, no, but maybe another time. And I think the hard thing with me is sometimes I like randomly think that I say that I like, yeah, I can do it that day. And then I realize I never said that. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not doing it that day anymore.
And then he blocked me, and then I had to make a new account, and then he blocked that account, and then but no, thank you for coming on, Cole. As I like to do, we're gonna say hi to the audience here in a second, but as we get going, you've seen my show. You know what I like. Tell the people who are watching us on the rewind who Cole is and what his YouTube channel is about.
Yeah, so I'm Cole. I like a lot of stuff. I collect a lot of weird different things. I mean, as you can tell, I like comics. There's some cards back here. I'm a big fan of bourbon. So yeah, I just like to collect a lot of stuff on my channel. I kind of show it all off, you know. So I've been doing a lot of card stuff. I've got some ideas for some new comic book things. That I'm pretty excited to hopefully start doing soon. And recently I've been kind of trying to sell some of my collection. As you can tell, I have 2 of these shelves that are almost all filled with short boxes. I think I have like 35 short boxes, like 5 long boxes. There's a lot of stuff that it's like, I don't necessarily need this. So I'm currently trying to sell some stuff, figure out the best way to do that, which is very hard.
Right. Well, especially like, I don't know, how much of it do you go back and reread?
That's the thing. The hard thing is the stuff that I actually go back and reread. I also own a copy of it in like trade paperback or hardcover. And most of the times I prefer to read it in that. And honestly, even now, some of the stuff I really would rather just reread in digital form because like for me now, like I know a lot of people hate digital, but like at like night laying in bed, I can just quick like download something from my library right away, like read through it when COVID started. It was great because my library gave us unlimited Hoopla credits. So I'm just like, I reread all of Saga and it was just like, this is so great. I can do this. I don't have to like worry about like roughing up issue 1 or, you know, accidentally.
What's Hoopla?
So Hoopla is a free app from the library. Not all libraries offer Hoopla, but if you have a library card, you could probably ask them if they offer some sort of a digital thing. So I know there's something called Libby. There's Overdrive. Hoopla is what I currently use, but Hoopla is great because they have everything from Image for the most part. They're starting to get some Dynamite stuff. I even mentioned to Gary that I read like a Red Sonja. But yeah, I mean, the only issue with Hoopla is that you only get credits per your library card. So like I can check out 10 things a month, but most of the time, you know, that's 10 trades, or you could even get an omnibus, right? So like sometimes you can get a whole set of a book where you get 50, you know, like I think they have the omnis of The Walking Dead. So you can read all The Walking Dead in like 4 checkouts.
Nice.
I know my brother uses the library a lot, and I'm starting to lean into that a little bit, wanting to go back and see if mine over here where I live offers anything, and I just wanted to write it down.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, like there are things like Comixology Unlimited, but that's kind of like usually they only offer the first 2 trades of sets, which is still good. You know, it's worth the money, but Hoopla is just like, if your library has it, it's great because most libraries do have stuff you can check out. But I personally just love Hoopla for like the quick, easy digital download, right?
I'm sure it's easier to digitally read, especially if I've seen, you know, where you got the baby in one arm and the book in the other, and you don't have to worry about anything with the
chops
book.
A page and you're like, oh well, this book is loosely ruined now, but hey, it doesn't
baby
really
rips
matter.
The page out. Yeah, that would be
Now let's take a quick moment and say hello to our chat. So first in, of course, we have Las Cruces. Good evening, sir. Psychedelic Comics, nice to see you. Nicholas, One Shot Comics, how are you? Oh, giving La Cruces double do. Callie and Jordan, how are you? Son of a Bruce, Chris, how you doing tonight, sir? Eddie, nice to see you. Steven, thank you for showing up. Jerry the Jitterbug, nice to see you, buddy. Taylor Winder, with that fine Illinois bourbon might get you kicked out of Michigan.
It is technically from Illinois, too.
And, of course, we have Ignacio. And, guys, watch for Ignacio's appearance on Let's Talk About It over on Remy Q's channel. That'll be coming up. Chop and Drop, good evening, buddy. Thank you for the AOK. I got to make a video. Chop sent me a nice thank you card with some stickers and some cards in it, which was beautiful. Thank you, sir. And we are getting it going. So, Sleepy Reader, good evening, sir. Brother John, in here checking up on his brother. And, all right, we got a full house. So, Cole, Random Rick Reviews, good evening, sir.
Freaky Louie.
Let's, is Louie in there? Did I miss him?
Yeah.
I always call him out for his lunch beer.
There he is.
I always got jealous
Louie.
when I was at work and I'd see him have a lunch beer, and I was like, I wish I could be having a lunch beer, but I'm at work.
Yeah.
Right. So, Cole, let's start comics, and we'll get into other things that you may collect. Where we're going to ask the basic questions first, and then we'll spin off into more precise things later on. But what got you into comics, and what age were you, and how has the hobby treated you while you've been in it and out of it, if you've been out of it?
Yeah, so I've been kind of in it 3 times, right? So the first time I was loosely a second grader, and my mom was like, hey, my brother liked comics. My brother liked, he read X-Men. He read like Spider-Man, your basic stuff. I think he had some of the like Image books too. I remember he had like Shadow Hawk and stuff like that. But my mom was like, oh, well, you don't really like to read. Let's see if comics do it. So I just remember she brought me to the comic shop, and I used to get like Ren and Stimpy because Marvel used to do Ren and Stimpy, and Dragon Ball were like the 2 comic books that I started getting when I was, a second grader. I still didn't probably even read them. I probably just looked at the pictures and was like, this is great. I still actually do have those books, but that's kind of like me as a younger kid. And then as I kind of got older, I just kind of remembered it. I remember, movies were starting to come out. I played HeroClix, which is kind of a tabletop game with superheroes. And as I started getting into that, I was like, I should get back into comic books. And that was roughly when the New 52 came out. So I just remember like I walked into the shop and I was like, what kind of Batman stuff do you have? And so they were like, oh, well, here's new Batman. There's 5 issues already. So I grabbed like the first 5 issues of Court of Owls and was like, let's give this a roll. And then, which is funny too. I also pulled off in like that same week, Clone Wars #1, which is like the first appearance of Ahsoka. That's just been sitting in a long box that I've had since for whatever reason. But it's like, I think I got some World of Warcraft comic books because they did that. I think even DC did that. I have some like Diablo books because I played those video games. So I was like,
I love Diablo.
Yeah, they make comics for video games. That's wild. So I kind of bought those, and then, I just kind of got like, it just got harder to do. The comic shop that I went to was like way out of the way.
Right.
And so I kind of got out of it again. And then roughly like 6 years ago, I tried to do 52 books. I was really into reading 52 books in 52 weeks. And one of the month, I was following it on Reddit. So it was like 1 month we're doing classics, 1 month we're doing mystery, right? Every month was different. So you get a variety. And one of the months happened to be comic books. We ended up doing like Watchmen. I want to say it was Watchmen, Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, a book called Hyperbole and a Half, which is like a web comic. And then another book called Blue is the Loneliest Color, which is, they made a movie about it. I think it might have been a foreign film, but it's like an indie love story. And I remember reading those and I was like, hey, I really like comics. So once again, back to the library, I checked out my library. What comic books do they have? Because, doing 52 books in 52 months, I'm just utilizing my library for a lot of this. So I just started checking out random like books. I remember like Googling top 10 best comic books of all time and started reading those. And then so once I got into it, I was like, I wonder where the closest comic shop to me is. So I Google it and it was like 3 months, there's a comic shop that's moving in. Yeah, I think it's called Blue of the Warmest Colors. You just said that. A comic shop decided to move in about 1.5 miles from my house. So pretty much, it was funny. I was actually at my shop. I bring my daughter there now. And I was talking to the owner and I was like, Don, how many people do you think that have like had a pull list the entire time the store has been alive? And he's like, there's a few. I mean, you're definitely one of them. Cause yeah, I was, and which was funny because I was talking to him. I found this and they already had a Facebook. So I'm like, hey, can I make a pull list? And I'm already adding books to a pull list like 2 months before they even open. And I think he was like, you were the first person to even start a pull list. But I just saw that was, I was like, I have no idea what this is. I Googled what's the pull list.
Does that give me a free book a month?
Yeah.
No.
A free book a week?
Yeah, you get 10% off and free bags and boards. So I'll take it.
But, free bags and boards is nice. We get 20% off the top.
Yeah. So I know it's kind of weird. I know that some people would prefer that because they're like, I like my own bag and board.
No, free bags and boards are nice.
It's nice, and you don't have to worry about it. They usually bag and board it for you. So like,
are they the resealable bags? The ones with the
they are not, unfortunately. There is another shop in town that does use those. Those are definitely my favorite too. But yeah, I mean, so I've been going there since they've opened, so about 5 or 6 years now, and pretty much hit a pull list that has gotten pretty aggressively crazy at sometimes. It's slightly cooled down now. But
well, you said Batman, Watchmen, those kind of books got you in. But when did you start turning towards the indie scene and really start getting into the independent stories? Because I know those are really important to you.
Yeah, and that was kind of it. You know, when I got back into that, I remember like one of the first books I checked out from my library was called Black Holes. So it's like from the 90s, and it's just this weird like body horror. The idea is that these kids, there's a sexually transmitted disease, but it makes you look grotesque. So,
it does. I have the graphic novel. It's thick, dude. It's a big.
It's really thick, and yeah, I love that book. So like, you know, I started reading that, and then I just remember kind of like, I used to ask the guy that ran the shop, like, well, what do you recommend? Like, what's a book you really like right now? Just because, like, I was like, I have no idea. I'm just kind of pulling shit randomly. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear or not. So I'll try to not do that. But I was like, I'm just pulling stuff off the shelf, figuring out whatever looks cool. And it just kind of went all over the place. So he started recommending some stuff, you know. I just kind of went all over the place. There's a company called Source Point Press. So they're from Michigan, which is where I'm from. So I kind of gravitated to them because every anniversary they had, he would invite them and the creators would come. So the creators are there talking to you, pitching their books. So it's like a mini Comic-Con in my comic shop. So that kind of like led me down some, you know, meeting these creators and doing stuff like that. So I mean, it's just kind of gone all over the place. I mean, it's kind of hard because, you know, how much can you really do with superheroes? I think, you know, there's a lot of superhero stories that are still good and still modern, but I think like when you just create your own world, you can almost do something and tell a more compelling story. You know, as I said, I started getting into comics because I was reading novels, and you can find a novel about literally everything, where I feel like even in comics, there are some niches where you can't get a book for that, right? Like even crime, you think that there should be way more crime books than there really are, right?
Right.
Especially with how popular procedurals are in television. You think there'd be a whole niche just for that.
Yeah, like I mean, like Ed Brubaker is like kind of the guy, right? I mean, like Brian Azzarello kind of does some of that stuff. I know Bendis used to sort of do some of that stuff too, but it's like new people putting out crime stuff isn't as much as you think it should be, or at least I guess I think it should.
And that's kind of like a bygone era too, like when because the crime suspense stories, all that stuff used to come out along with the horror mags. And I think a lot of that went away once they did with the Comics Code Authority kind of hurt that because kind of stamped that creative freedom to be able to tell a brutal story if you wanted to. Well, I mean, it could make a comeback now.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the great thing about what you were saying before about the independent books is they have a lot more freedom to pretty much make the story any way they want. They're not adhered to, well, this doesn't fit the, you know, the Superman mold or the Batman mold, or, you know,
is good.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
we can't do that. So.
Even a book like this is a print that Ignacio did for Red Room, right? Red Room is literally the movie Saw.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's a comic book where people are literally brutalizing people over, you know, the dark web, but like it's still a compelling thing. And like, I don't know, it's wild that like, you know, a comic publisher like Fantagraphics putting stuff like that out. But I mean, they also just do a lot of really weird stuff that I mean, I think it's not for everyone, but I think Fantagraphic is kind of a cool place where you can get these weird things too.
But I think that's kind of cool because you've been in a few times, like you said. But and just like most of us have, right? We've as life has dictated, we've been in, we've been out, we've been back in, we've been back out, and so forth and so on. But every time you're in, there's something different going on with the market, and these days there's literally seems like there's something for everyone. Like when you first got back in, if you get in the 90s, it's all about heroes. With what's going on in Image, there's very very little different things out there. But now there's so many new companies. There's so many new writers, so many new artists. There's just a glut of material and something that appeals to everyone. And you kind of wonder how more people aren't finding comics, even though they're doing well now. But with the variety that's out there, man, there's still a ton of people missing out that could really connect with some wonderful stories.
Yeah, and it's like even wild to know that there's like comic creators out there that might be somebody else's favorite that I've almost never heard of or never read anything. I know that there's a guy on here who actually surprisingly only lives 2.5 hours from me. I figured this out because I found a bookmark and decided to send it to him. But it's his name is the Polist, either I think Examiner or Executioner. I always forget how it's the end word, but he really liked Zach. I think his name is Zach Kaplan, who he did like his biggest book that I've started reading was called Mindset, which is from Vault. But he did a book called like Join the Future, maybe. And he's really big into sci-fi. And it was like, he's been talking about how this is his favorite writer. And it's like, I've never even heard of that guy. I mean, I guess technically Bearded Comic Bro had him on his podcast and I watched it, but I kind of forgot all about that. So it's just kind of like wild to think that there's like, people who have favorite writers that I've never even heard of. Right. And I mean, they're writing on big publishers too.
Now, growing up, and I always like to get into this with the guests. What were your favorite cartoons and TV shows that kind of influenced the way you grew up and view comics and are entertained by this stuff?
Yeah, and I guess I kind of really touched in that when I, first round of comics, right? Ren and Stimpy was my favorite. My parents probably let me watch stuff that I probably shouldn't have, like stuff like Ren and Stimpy.
A cat dog person to me.
Yeah. I did. I mean, I like Cat Dog too. I mean, I liked Beavis and Butthead. I probably shouldn't have watched those, but I did. I love Dragon Ball Z too. There was a kid that lived down the road from me. He was like 3 or 4 years older than me, but he had all of the Japanese dubbed Dragon Ball Z movies.
Oh man.
And like pretty much he was just like, hey, I'll let you borrow them. Just give me $5 a week. Because he knew like I'd just make a copy of it myself.
Right.
And just give it back to him. He's like, give me $5 a week and a few VHSs. Because I think he was copying them and selling them on eBay, right? So he was giving it to me. And I remember like my mom would come down and like the Japanese versions of Dragon Ball is like, there's some weird stuff in it. Like randomly, like, I don't know if you know, like Goten and Trunks, they're both these kids, right? It's one of Goku's sons. And they're fighting. And out of nowhere, like, Goten just like drops his pants and shows the bad guys like penis and like, look at this. And you're like, what the hell is going on? But like my parents like walk downstairs like, this is weird, but you're also watching cartoons that you're reading the words to watch it. I guess we're not that bad about this, but I watched that. I mean, most of the Nickelodeon stuff, I think Real Monsters was big, Rugrats when I was a kid. I mean, even Ninja Turtles, the Ninja Turtles cartoons. I mean, Ninja Turtles was kind of like my first love as a kid. Like I have, those huge tote boxes. They're like that big. I have one filled with action figures from when I was a kid. And my mom kept them in the basement. So now my daughter plays with them. She's like, Dad, these are cool. I kind of like these. And it's like, me too. And I was like, I could maybe sell some of these, but if she's going to play with them, like, let's go,
Yeah. Keep it going.
See, you said Ninja Turtles, and look who popped up.
There he is.
Good evening, Panda. How you doing, Adrian?
Doing all right, guys. How are you? Sorry, my laptop crashed, so I had to restart it. But I'm here.
Awesome to have you. So, who's your favorite turtle then, Cole?
My favorite turtle is the best of the turtles. I'm just seeing if I have one near me. I don't, but it's Donatello.
Oh, all right. That's my favorite.
Okay.
I mean, so one, I was like the logical video game player and he had the longest reach. But two, everyone else's favorite turtle was like Michelangelo. And I was smart enough that I realized
I have no idea.
If I would have picked Donatello, most of the kids don't like Donatello. So maybe I can get some free action figures out of this too. I was, I was hustling from the beginning. So it's like, I just like this one. People might give me them because they're like, oh, I got a Donatello. I don't want Donatello. I want a Michelangelo. Like, I'll trade you one Michelangelo for 2 Donatellos. Deal.
Now, how old were you when the first movie came out?
What year did that come out?
1990.
1990. I was 5.
Now,
nice.
Did you see that
so
when
you were
5,
you were born
or
85?
was that a little bit later?
I was.
Did you still have the mustache then?
I did not. I did. It came when I was 13.
Little 5-year-old Cole with a big bushy stash.
I mean, I don't even really think I got an actual mustache until I was probably like 28. It's like I can't even grow like a beard. Really, I've tried, but I can't.
No, it's okay. I just thought I'd throw in a little mustache joke there.
My son and daughter have both had pacifiers with mustaches on them.
So let's talk about the mustache a second. What did that become like a thing for you? Like, and people started associating you with the mustache.
So yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was probably when I was like 27-ish. So I don't know. I just started growing a mustache. It was loosely when Parks and Rec was finishing. And I think I just was like, Ron Swanson has one. I have one. My dad always had one.
Ron.
So I can't grow a beard. I wish I could grow a beard, but I can't. So it's kind of like the thing that I was always doing though, is I would grow a mustache. And once it got to this length, I would just shave it. And everyone was like, what happened? You just did a mustache. I was like, well, I don't know how to trim. And I still don't know how to trim. So that's why it's just crazy bushy, but it's just like, I would just shave it and then it would be gone. And they're like, wait, you just don't have a mustache for like 3 months? And I'm like, yeah, that kind of is how it works. So it's like kind of weird. And like, I think now it's just kind of been like, I guess doing this, it seems a little bit weirder.
You gotta watch that.
I did, but
you gotta watch that, Cole. Your kids will be like, I don't know who this guy is.
So my daughter told me to shave it once, and then that's what she said. She was like, Dad, I don't like the way you look right now.
Put it back.
Like, cool.
This was your idea.
Yeah. This was your idea too. That really hurts my feelings.
That happened. A lot of kids, they look and they're like, who is that? So
my son is too, I mean, I don't know if he doesn't notice me, he's too young to really know if he knows anything or not.
For all he knows, you're the guy that just feeds him.
Yeah, usually I feed him and let him sleep in me. He's so sweaty too, like it's like a stain of sweat on my shoulder as he falls asleep. Like, how are you sweatier than me?
He's running hot.
That's just that's those evolved genes working for him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of which, like, who do you think we should thank, your mom or your dad, for your incredible mustache?
100% my dad. So my dad he's never been able to grow a beard, and my brother can grow a beard. I mean, my mom obviously cannot grow a beard, but I assume that my brother got that from my mom, and I got this from my dad. So my dad's like half Indonesian. So he can't grow a beard because he said because of that. And that's what I've been just telling everyone why I can't. I mean, I weirdly don't have hair on the back of my legs either.
Mm-hmm.
Like my calves. It's weird, but
it's Asians just in general. They're just slick as dolphins. I'm telling you. Well, no, I'm just saying because the other day somebody was just like, man, your arms are so smooth. I was like, I just don't have body hair. I mean, except for places you can't see, but even then it's like, I just don't even qualify. Yeah. It's just smooth. That's all.
My buddy's like ex-girlfriend used to be, she had hairy arms for a girl. And she was always just like, I wish I could have arms like yours. I was like, I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not.
Yeah. But my dad has the same thing where he says that he can't grow a beard. And I was just like, then how am I able to grow a beard? He's like, McDonald's cheeseburgers. I didn't have that growing up. And I was just like, so
I also ate those, so I'm calling your dad a liar.
Right, exactly. But my dad was just saying stuff like he can't grow a beard because his uncle used to tweeze out his hair from his face every time he got it, except for the mustache, because my uncle used to have the really nice mustache. And then once my dad started growing a mustache, everybody's like, oh, his is the better stash. So his uncle got jealous and told him to start plucking. It's a whole Asian thing. I don't know. That's why when you said Indonesian, I was like, oh, so it's not just my family. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's wild, but I wish I could get a beard. If I could get a beard, I would probably have one, but I can't. So I have a mustache. And that's pretty much it. This is the consolation prize.
There you go.
Let's talk about some other things you collect too. So in this last year too, I've seen on your channel that you've really gotten into cards as well. And we have a great card community. You saw Callie and Jordan's squad in here earlier, who are awesome. But you have Zach's Collections, who is also local here to Rochester. That guy's amazing. And you have you just have so
Like
many. For the
Diamond
Pole,
Princess?
you have Card Wolf, you have Slapnuts is Gaming, Julie Farnham, Swish Rips, Freedom Sufferer Cards, all these great people, and they kind of drew you in too. What's it been like for you getting into that as well? Do you have to plan out the money a little better to do both hobbies, or?
Yeah, definitely. I had to sell a bunch of books. I cut my pull list a lot. The hard thing is once my son was born, it's been so much harder to read comic books, like especially single issues like floppies, because like most of the time I'm either feeding my son and maybe I have a few minutes to read a comic book, and like reading a floppy with a 10-month-old that's just going to smack something and maybe rip a page is not ideal. I think too that, the cool thing about like cards is they're loosely like, if you just collected, like it's when you cover buy, right? You have something that you can look at and you can display like that. Like that's kind of what it is, right? So that's kind of been like the fun of it. And it's just, that nostalgia of ripping into something, just being able to see, hey, could I get something in there that is worth what it's at?
And watching some of your videos, I've noticed that there's a lot of terms like ripping. I did not know that was a term. I was like, what is ripping? And you're like, oh, okay, let's
I don't
rip
even know
this.
if that is a term. I just say rip because it's like you rip it open, right?
Right.
Oh, and it's rack instead of an A-OK when you get a gift.
I still call them A-OKs because that's drawn into my blood.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Oh, wait, so is that an actual term or is that just what you use? Oh,
that's just what I use.
No, so yeah, it's a rack, random act of kindness.
Got it.
Instead of just act of kindness.
Oh, and I guess I do have this. I think I might have sent you the Mikey card from this set though.
Oh, me? Yeah, I have I have
cool
from the
card there.
Pack. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been like loosely like some of these jank packs that I have. Like I'll just include like if somebody wins something on my like show or I sell a book, I just randomly throw them in. Like here, enjoy this random card that probably you don't care about, but maybe you will. Like here's a Power Ranger bad guy. Here's a card with Kimberly on it.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a whole bag of stickers and stuff like that I just throw in regularly with things that people buy or AOKs that I send out, and a lot of the stickers, like I know I sent out a lot of the comic burrito stickers out with some of the stuff just because you want people out there to know who they are too.
Yeah, that's I know I sent a bunch of stickers to Simple Simon because I like with some of this card stuff, you can sell one card with international stamps in an envelope. So once I got those, I was like, hey, I know you don't really get AOKs, but do you want a bunch of stickers? And I just sent him a bunch of community member stickers that I have because it was like, here, enjoy all these because I have extras and you probably could enjoy them more than I could.
There you got Louis saying he still has his Kimberly and Cole.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit too about Comic Burrito. How did that whole partnership come up for you and the gents?
Yeah, so Nick and I were Facebook friends because of disc golf. We both played disc golf together.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
And we just talk occasionally. And then I think I had a few pictures on Facebook of me reading comics. So then when he got into comics, he's like, hey, I think I'm getting into comics. And I was like, cool, here's some comic stuff. And, we talked about comics for a while. And then randomly he just added me to a group chat with Todd. And he was like, you are the only two people I know that like comics. So let's talk comics. So we talked comics for a little bit. And then out of nowhere one day, Todd said, do you guys want to try a podcast? And I was like, sure, I've got nothing better to do. I can talk into a microphone about comic books. So we kind of like talked about it. And then like out of nowhere, he was like, what if we did YouTube instead? And I was like, I have no problem with that. Nick almost quit because he had a panic attack before we even started. Like, what, we're going to be on camera? And like, and then, yeah. So like one day we just went over to Todd's house. And so what we would do is it was like, all right, we'll just meet once a month and we'll do 4 videos in one sitting. So that's what we would do. And then like the second time we met was like March 13th. So then it's funny because we read Mr. Miracle and there's like a scene in that book where they're eating off a veggie tray. And it's like, you know, it's awkward because he brings to Darkseid a veggie tray, like here's a veggie tray. And so we're eating a veggie tray and like you can like visibly see us like spitting food as we're talking because we're eating on a veggie tray as we're reviewing a comic. And like I just remember Todd putting like the comments of it, like the description, like this was filmed before the pandemic because we released it like a month into it. And it was just like, it might be in bad taste to see us like sitting around eating food as like food is flown out of people's mouth. But yeah, we did that. So then when the pandemic came, it was like, well, now we're not doing anything. You guys want to try and see if we can live stream? And it was like, I think I had a webcam. Todd had one that he didn't use, but he had his nice camera. So he let Nick borrow that. And then we just kind of like, I guess, evolved from there. It's gotten harder since my son was born, just because for me, like, and I think that's kind of what I mentioned to you when you said like we had been trying to do this for a while. Like the hard thing with my son has just been like my wife and I were doing shifts for sleeping. So like she'd go to bed with my daughter at like 8 and I'd stay up with my son kind of downstairs so that if we fell asleep or whatever, or if, you know, she could get some sleep. And if I fell asleep, he'd be right next to me. So I'd wake up. My issue is if I'm in our bedroom and he's in his room, if he cries, I'm not going to wake up. But if he's right next to me, I'll probably wake up. So like, you know, I'd have the bassinet down there. So that way we both got to get our sleep time. But it was like, you know, I didn't want to be on camera with a baby because who knows if that baby's going to scream or yell or just hit the mic, you know, and I don't know. So that stuff for me, I know sometimes if I see people and that's happening in a video, kind of like, I'm not going to watch this because this hurts my ear. I've got my own children crying. I don't need to hear other people's children's crying. But so that's why I kind of stepped away. And I mean, I think we've been talking about kind of bringing things back, but that's kind of why it's kind of happened. And I think too, you know, it's also harder to do live streams as much sometimes once, you know, the world has sort of opened up. Like I'm going back into the office 3 days a week. So it's like, you know, certain days I just get home and I'm like exhausted and it's like I want to hang out with my daughter. And by the time my daughter's in bed and, you know, it's like, well, maybe I want to see my wife for a little bit of time because she still likes me. I don't know why.
I knew that was coming.
Now, when did Cole's comic claims come into the picture? So was the Comic Burrito your foray into YouTube or?
Yes, it was. I mean, obviously like I mentioned disc golf. I made two YouTube videos. One was me giving a presentation about why Uncle Jesse is the superior uncle in Full House. And the other one,
send me that fucking link.
Oh my God. Is it on?
That fucking link.
We had to, the job I was working at, it was like one of these things where we had to learn to do presentations. So the idea was like, you have to make a presentation within 5 minutes and give a 2-minute presentation. So that was the one that I created and somebody recorded it and sent it to me and I put it on YouTube and then put it on Reddit to see if people would think it was funny. People didn't really think it was that funny. And the other video is me throwing disc golf discs. They have these things like a marker is called like a mini and it's like that big. And it's me throwing a mini and that somehow has like 400 views. But it's like a 17-second video. But yeah, the reason that I started this, I guess, to actually answer the question, so sort of I was in YouTube but not really, was mainly because it kind of started as an experiment. I was doing reels on Instagram and I was like, what would happen if I made a YouTube channel and I only put reels on it, like for shorts, and I never told anyone about it and I just kind of put stuff up? What would happen? So for the first like 3 months, it was just me putting those up. And then maybe it was like a month of that. And then Whack Comics did their 1,000 subscriber video. And it was like, well, this seems weird for me to make a really random video to put up to enter this contest. So I did it on that. And then they added it to the playlist. And then a bunch of people found it and added it. So I think like it's funny because if you like go back, I remember like, you know, you just see like it went from my head. Well, I even accrued like 50 subs just from making these reels. But then you just kind of see this like public subscribers. There's like a 10, like I think it's from like October 10th to like October 17th. I gained like 50 public subscribers because they were probably like, that's cool, you should go follow them. It's me wearing like a Catwoman mask and talking about my toys.
The daddy's toy chest.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know, it was kind of like, you know, with my son, I was just having these like weird fever dreams of random comic book stuff that I wanted to talk about. So I decided to do that. And then I just kind of, it was one of those things, you know, as I mentioned, it's hard to do live streams when you have a small kid, but there was occasional times where everyone in my house was sleeping and it's like 7:30 and I'm up and it's like, well, I can't really like, no one else wants, it's probably going to want to do a live stream because it's 7:30 a.m. But I have this random thing that I can make a video about. So it's like, I guess I'll do that. And then I kind of got into editing a little bit more. I did a few editings for Comic Burrito because there would be a time that we needed to do one and Todd wasn't feeling great. And it's like, I did this in high school. I took a class, so I kind of know. And like, you have to kind of relearn. You do a lot of Googling or YouTubing, like, how do I do this? But then I just kind of made stuff and it was nice, you know, just kind of doing stuff. And it's, you know, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted without being like, well, that was a weird thing that you put on here that doesn't relate to us, you know? So it's like, okay.
I was going to say, like, for most of us, there's a reason we do YouTube. Like, you know, I started for one reason, it became another. It's like the way I relax. It's my zen. It became another hobby I enjoy. What itch does creating YouTube content scratch for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, well, it's different. I guess the thing that, you know, a lot of people have kind of said is like, it's weird. There's now this like weird community of people that I know because I do this. Like I remember, so I've been to Vegas twice this year, one for a bachelor party and once for work. And I don't know if there's a channel called Chaos and Comics, and Chris, the guy that runs that channel, him and I have just talked. We talk about a lot of books, and I've randomly hung out with that dude twice. And everyone's like, "How do you know this guy?" I was like, "YouTube comic book stuff." And they're like, "What?" Like, yeah. But like the last time I went, I was there for a work conference. So like he was just like, "Hey, I'm going to take you to all the breweries in Las Vegas." Okay, cool. Nice. That sounds fun. And then like the next, like he called me, he's like, you have plans Friday night? And I was like, there's like an after party that I could go to that I could get like free drinks, but I'm assuming hanging out with you, I'll have more fun. So whatever you're doing, we can do that. And he was like, yeah, I've got tickets to an MMA fight, like an amateur MMA fight. So he went to UNLV's campus, watched one of his friends fight in an MMA. And then he was like, I'll take you to all the crappy dive bars. But he gave me, there was a book that came out. It's Terry Moore wrote a book called Parker Girls. And if you go back to my Instagram, you could, and even his, there's tons of pictures of this because he dropped me off. Like we were doing, there's a strip right by where my hotel was. And we were going there. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take this book that you got me. Cause he's like, just leave that in the car. I was like, well, my hotel's there. You don't have to drive me to my hotel. I can walk back the like, you know, quarter mile or whatever. So it's just us taking a picture in all these random bars. And he took me to this one place called like the Twisted Kilt, which is loosely like a Scottish branded Hooters. But it was funny, like we're weirdly taking a picture of this comic in this, and it's like it's weird because he was like, I feel uncomfortable because these girls are here. And I was like, I mean, this is probably a lot different and slightly funny because we're just two dudes. Like we took one in a margarita grill because that was there. Like, just like, here's me with this comic that I haven't even read yet. But
see, I wouldn't think that's weird at all. I would even probably go and ask one of the girls to come over and hold the book while we took the picture. Or something.
He kept saying that he was going to tell him that I wrote it, but then I was like, yeah, just Google Terry Moore. I am not Terry Moore.
Yeah, but do they care? They wouldn't even care.
Yeah,
you know, you throw like $10 at them, they wouldn't even care. They just stand there and with the book, and you could do, you know, say you're freaking Roger Moore. They're not going to care. It's Vegas, baby. You're whoever you want to be, Cole. That's awesome.
And that's who I was. Terry Moore.
Now,
Gary,
I don't know if you were going to touch on this, but I wanted to ask the question of how you and Bearded started this challenge business that everybody's into now, especially me. I love it. But when did that start?
Loosely Bearded started it. It was a thing he did. It was the Bearded Comic Bro Comic Challenge. He did it. I was like, dude, this is tight. And I made one and I was like, this is sweet. But what I did is I added everyone's video to my video, and I started like retweeting. I started Instagram like story sharing them, and then like 2 months in, he was like, dude, you put way more effort into this than I am, so like you can just be a part of it now. Like, okay, cool. So then it was just kind of like we were talking about it, and we took some time off. He had some family stuff, so but I think we're going to be pretty coming back in October, and you can probably assume what the theme is going to be because it's October, but
nice.
So Easter if you want to prepare, you might be able to.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of something he did, and it's been fun, right? I think, and that's the kind of cool things, like he just decided to do this. I decided to get into it, and now who knows? So many random people have done it. Like there's channels that I've never even heard of that like tag me on Instagram, and I'm like, what's happening? And then I watched their video, and I was like, it's so crazy because there's so many different, like when you just have this open thing, there's so many different covers, and that's why like. I know like E-Man had asked us like, hey, are you guys going to do like a Boom specific one? And like, that's where we did Image because Image is big enough that I think we could. And that's why we kind of did Indies because we wanted, a lot of people would do that, but we just felt like if we did Boom or if we did Dark Horse,
you get like 5 videos.
You're really shoehorning people in because if some people don't even like Image, there were people that was like, I didn't think I had 10 Image books, but I apparently have 13. So here are the 10 covers, right?
Well, I kept going, for the indie one, I kept going, wait, can't use this. This is Image. And they were saying, don't use Image. And I was like, okay. But because I have not been a big indie reader, that I wasn't sure I was going to have enough to do that challenge either. But I just love it.
And at the end of the day, if you would have put some Image ones in there, I probably would have like gave you a little bit of shit, but we don't really care, right? We just want to see people do it, and we want people to join us and talk about stuff, right? It's fun. It starts a conversation. Now we're talking about comics, and that's really what I like to do, right? I know that my favorite was K Titus or Love Rules. He made one, and he did for indies. He had Star Wars Marvel in it, and it was like, that's an indie book. It's like a blatantly a Marvel book, and it's like, I think he said Marvel Star Wars. This is an indie book, and I just had to laugh because it's like that's the farthest from an indie book that you could have. But like, I guess it used to be on Dark Horse, so like some people
mainstream company with a mainstream property.
Yeah, double down mainstream too, right? Not only are we Marvel, we're also Star Wars.
That's
but
funny.
It's still fun, right? Like it's not that big of a deal. Like, and that's the thing. Like, we have these things. I know that like 22 Comics, he was in here for a while. For couples, he was doing like Batman and Robin and stuff like that, right? Like that's technically a couple, right? And I even said that, like, because so many people come like DM me and was like, I don't know if I have couples. I was like, literally, it could just have 2 people on a cover. And that's technically a couple cover, right? Because there's a couple of people right there. But I don't know. It's like, it gets hard sometimes. But that's the thing. The rules are loose. We just want to see people bringing up comics and talking about it. And it can be fun. I mean, there's no real winners or prizes. And some people are like, oh, well, that one already ended this month. I can't do it. There's no time limits on these. You can do them whenever you want, right? There's some free content.
Now, are you a Comic-Con person? Do you go to them? Have you been to a lot of them?
I've been to a few of them. So we have one in the city I live in. It's called Grand Rapids Comic Con. I've been to that. They do a spring one and a fall one. So I've been to that 3 or 4 times. The second time I went, we had the burrito one as a collective. And I know that I met like Chip Gettler actually came because it was funny. He was going to a wedding and he's like, I think I might be in Grand Rapids. Where should I eat dinner? And I was like, oh, there's actually a Comic-Con this weekend. He's like, I'm going to a wedding. The wedding canceled because it was like kind of COVID-y times. And it was like,
oh yeah,
hey, I'm going to come to that. So he actually came to it was free comic book day. So he came to my shop with me. We walked into free comic book day. He got to shop there. We met again at the Comic-Con, like picking through bins and stuff. And Comic Man Andy was there one day, so we got to like meet him because he lives like an hour south of us. And the first Comic-Con I went to was like one of the Grand Rapids ones, but then the second one was in 2018. I went to C2E2, and I try to get to C2E2 because my sister-in-law lives in Chicago, but the last few times it's just been hard to get there. But yeah, that time was sweet. I know that there was like some of the big people I met were like Tom King. I got to meet Scotty Young. Jason Aaron was there, and I got him to I bought a Southern Bastards hardcover, and he wrote Roll Tide in it, which was kind of embarrassing because Michigan State got rolled by Alabama in a bowl game, and it made me really sad. But yeah, I know that, like, you know, Jock was there. I got some books signed by him. I mean, it's cool. Like, C2E2 is such a sweet place. I mean, like, if you're trying to buy books, it's probably not the place that you want to be, but like meeting creators and seeing a bunch of, I mean, Chicago's a pretty big city, and it's kind of all around people. So there's a lot of people there. That's kind of fun. And yeah, I mean, I like Comic-Cons. You know, I wish I could go to more. I know that, like, it's weird because we have one too called Motor City Comic-Con that's in like the Detroit area. That's a little bit further out of the way. That one's coming up in like 3 weeks, but I probably won't get to go to that. It's weird. That one gets really weird because it's like one year they have a ton of really good people, and the next year they don't. Like this year, the best person is Mitch Gerard's, which I love Mitch Gerard's, but like, I'm not sure it's worth driving 5 hours in a day to get a Mitch Gerard's signature. Like,
right.
I really like his art, but like 5 hours in one day of driving is a lot of driving. And I guess
you could probably mail that to him.
Yeah. Hey, Mitch. So that's a weird thing. So like back to the cards, there's this whole thing where through the mail where people mail a card to a celebrity and they'll sign it and send it back to them.
Really?
But like that's the thing. Like people were like, and like that's the thing. Because like some comic book artists charge, right? Like I think Todd McFarlane might charge like $25 a signature, but like some people don't, right? And also like I don't know, like I feel like if you just say, hey, Tom King, here's a book I sent you. Will you send it back to me? He might just be like, that's cool. Yeah, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, like, forever to learn what TTM was. I'm like, TTM, like, what the hell is this?
And like, I bet Matt Kint, if it was like pre-Berserker, you probably could have just sent him a book. Like, dude, I love your books. Will you sign this? Here's a return label. Please send it back.
What's TTM?
Through the mail.
Through the mail.
Oh,
so they send a card through the mail, but it's weird because some people, so like some of the times people send it to like, you can just send it to them like let's say you like the Mets, right? You can send it to the Mets home, like, or whatever, their like clubhouse or whatever. So they get it, they see that it's for like Pete Alonso or whatever his name is, and they give it to him, and he might sign it and he might not. Some players or things are like, well, we charge you $25, but that money goes to charity, but they'll sign it, right? But like, you know, like WWE, you can send it to the practice facility and maybe somebody will send it back to you. But I think it kind of depends, right? So like most people will do this to like older cards for like older people because they're like, people still remember me? That's sweet.
Yeah.
Panda getting trolled.
My favorite people on YouTube. Panda. Poor Panda.
I love Greg.
Now let's get into a little. I don't know much about you, the reader. I've seen some of the stuff you've read because you're big into shorts and you make a fair amount of content. But what is one of your favorite comic storylines ever? And the opposite of that, what's one of your guilty pleasure reads that you know it's a bad story, but you love it regardless? Like for me, it would be the Sidekick's Revenge, a totally garbage Spider-Man story that I have a ton of fun with because it's got Nova and Moon Knight and a bunch of other stuff in it, Night Thrasher, and it's just fun. So what have you got for us?
I would say like my all-time favorite book right now is probably Saga.
So also good.
I mean, my daughter is named after the main character of Saga, so it's like I love that book, you know. But another book I really love is like Mind Management by Matt Kint. I read that in the hospital when my daughter was born, so it's also like a book that kind of holds a special spot for me, right? I know like the book Friday. It was funny. That's a book that Ed Brubaker did. And in the Burritos, like Golden Burrito Awards, that was one of the books that made my Image top books. And they're like, I've never even heard you say anything. And I was like, well, first, it's just like a straight to graphic novel. So like, if I just didn't talk about it when it came out, it's you missed the opportunity to talk about it. But I also read that in the hospital when my son was born. So it's like those books are just kind of like, are they as good as maybe I think they are? Yes, they are still awesome, but like, I love them more because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
As for like cheesy stuff, I mean, I love Secret Wars, like the original Secret Wars. I think that is still a good story, but obviously it was a story made to sell toys, right? And I think it's crazy how that book still is referenced in modern comics, right? Like I remember the Black Bolt book from like 2016. They're talking about like Titania and like what's the dude with the crowbar or whatever, right? So they're talking about like, he's talking about how because they're in jail, right? Black Book gets put in jail and they're escaping it, and he's talking about how he wants to get out to see his wife, right? So it's like this weird thing, I mean, I think like a ton of modern comics still reference that, but I mean, when it comes to it, so I read Year One. So Stephen Hayner was in here. He's a buddy that I've kind of read comics books with pre-YouTube. We met in a Facebook group. I had him for a Secret Santa, and he loves Superman. Wow. And I had the Loot Crate issue 1 Superman, like Action Comics 1. And it's, it's not a super crazy thing, but I sent it to him and he was like so thankful for it that he like sent me a thank you card back and was like, that was awesome. You sent me a lot of good books, but that really was like awesome of you. And so him and I kind of started this relationship, and we'd always read books together. And so we read Secret Wars, we've read a lot of cheesy stuff, but we also read like Year One Batman. And after that, I had DC Universe. So I just was like, I should just continue reading Batman. So like, I think issues like 425 to 427. I could be wrong on that. And if I am, sorry. But there's a storyline called The Many Deaths of Batman. And it's not great, but it's like, I think it's such a cool Batman story that no one ever talks about. And like, it's 3-part issue, in like, what is it, like the late 80s, early 90s. And it's just going through, this person comes to Gotham and they're killing all of these people that taught Bruce Wayne how to become Batman. So it's like, there's this gymnast here. They're killing the gymnast that taught him like acrobatics and stuff like that. So it's just kind of this like cool little like history blurb of Batman that like, if you try and buy the trade for that, it costs like $75 for a 3-issue trade, because those 90s 80s trades, they don't remake now sometimes, so don't buy the trade, but you could find that book in any dollar. And one of them,
I'd just go get the floppies.
Right?
Yeah, get the floppies because it's cheaper. Like one of the covers is pretty iconic. It's got like the dagger with the like in a wall with a cowl on it, and there's like one where they're like pulling out like I think like from a morgue, they're pulling out whatever that gurney bed things are called. But I don't know, it's a pretty fun read that I think is kind of like cheesy or whatever, that like a ton of people probably don't read, but I think it's like a cool thing, especially if you like Batman, where it's like, is this the best Batman book ever? No, but there's some really cool Batman stuff
and a cool concept.
Yeah, I don't even remember who the villain is. Like that's how forgettable the villain is, but like it's just this cool kind of concept, right? So
damn.
Now, what did you think of the new Batman movie?
I loved it.
I thought it was good.
I mean, it's weird because my brother almost prefers DC movies over Marvel, and he hated it. And I was like, how can you hate it? But like, the thing is, it's really dark. I think every time he watched it, he'd like start it with his wife at like 11. And that's a hard thing. This isn't a movie that you can watch if you're any sort of sleepy. There is some bloat there, but like once you get into it, it goes really good. And for me, the thing I really loved about it, I know like me and Greg talked about it, was like, there's so much stuff that happens in that you're like, that's Batman, right? Like that's the first time that you've seen this Batman-y thing in a Batman movie. And like, it's not even crazy stuff, right? It's just like when he, glides down the thing and he like hits the thing and flies over, like that's early, that could come out of Year One. I mean, Year One kind of has that thing where he swings and like hits it and like messes up his shoulder and rolls over. But like, there's so much stuff in there where you're just like, that's Batman. Where like some of the other Batmans, like even like the Christopher Nolan movies are great, but there was never like a thing where you're like, that's Batman to me. I mean, the closest was like, there's that scene in the original Justice League. I don't know if it even made the Snyder cut, where like Batman's going to Gordon and it looks like he's like crawling up something where it's just like, that didn't actually happen that way, but that's how people perceive it, right? Like Batman does these things where he's different than everyone else, and I saw that and I was like, that's kind of cool. But like, most of the other stuff is like, yeah, also Super Pro. I do have a copy of Super Pro around
I think we all have a copy of Super Pro.
Well, but not as many as Bearded Comic Pro. That guy's got 7,000 copies of Super Pro.
I don't have any. I don't. What is Super Pro?
It's NFL Marvel.
And you got Spider-Man in issue 1.
Yeah.
And they made a Super Pro special too.
Yeah, I don't.
I'll send you a picture of it, and it's the epitome of 90s Marvel comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna merge with the NFL and make a superhero out of it.
Okay.
There's a Spider-Man.
The NFL also didn't the NFL also do one about kickers?
Just kickers.
There was a
it was just kickers
Incorporated.
Yeah, that's what it was, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was related to them or not, but I do remember the title.
Okay, yeah. I just remember there was a book all about kickers in football.
In football. All right. Well, we had the whole. Didn't they have like Gretzky Jordan cartoon with it was back in the day, so that makes sense.
Well, even let's see if I have these.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cole. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, man. It's we're all talking. I didn't really have anything else beneficial to say. I'm just kind of talking out of my butt for most of it.
Well, now too with all of us on YouTube, and the YouTube community is bigger and stronger than ever, comic book wise. How important do you think having an active commentary on comics is to collecting today?
I don't really know the answer to that question. I don't know. It kind of depends, right? I don't know. I think most people, at least the people that I talk to, is kind of like I read what I like and I like what I read, right? So I don't know. I liked seeing, diverse stories and diverse characters personally. I know that some people don't like that, and that's fine. I don't know. I think it's just kind of like, talking about comics too is fun. That's the thing. It's kind of been like before this, it'd be like I'd talk to my wife, like, I just read this comic and it's pretty cool.
Right.
And then she'd be like, I don't care.
Okay, cool. That's the way my wife is too. I come back like, what, do you believe this happened? She's like, I don't care.
But then now she actually reads some like what was that book? March? I don't know. It was about I don't know who it is, some political figure. But she's read all those books, and the newest one, Run, came out. I've gotten her a few books like Fun Homes. She's more into indies with like kind of good art. I know, like, if you've looked at that Brubaker, those like there's One Bad Day, and it's like pink, and it's got the girl with like the cigarette. She just like looked at that and it's like, I like that because it's like there's a pastel blue and a pastel pink, and she's like,
right.
I'll read that, and it's sitting by her bed, so like now she'll read some and she talks to me, but it's just like it's cool to be able to talk about this, right? And have other people like, hey, you know what, I felt differently about that. What was it? Somebody, what is his name? There's a guy named Collecting with Durs. He was talking about people were talking about Damage Control, and I was like, Damage Control is like the worst book I've read this entire year, but I also don't like fun stuff. And I was like, and he was like, oh, well, I love Jurassic League. And I was like, well, to be fair, Jurassic League #1 was my second least favorite book of the year, because like, I don't know. I like some fun, silly stuff, but like,
sure.
I guess with my like superheroes, I don't like a lot of Elseworld superhero stories. Like Kingdom Come is about the only one that I really like. And it's because it's still like a superhero story, right? It's just, they're different than the normal superheroes. So I don't know, like Deceased. I get how people really like Deceased, but it's not for me. Like I get how people really like Injustice, but I don't know. I don't really want to see what Batman fighting Superman would really be like unless they're actually fighting each other and there's reasons for it, not just because one's mad about the Joker and killing his wife.
Right.
Sorry if I ruined the first issue of Injustice for anyone.
So I think I look at those as like what ifs.
Yeah.
Cole, that's the way I have to look at those type of books, because I did like Deceased, but when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if I want to get this. I don't know if I like the idea of this. And then I said, you know what? I bought it and read it and was like, okay, this is like a what if. That's the way you got to approach this whole thing. It's just out of reality, what if, and that's the way I look at it. So,
but what if they're one issue, and I usually like that. Like that's it. Like one issue I'm in. But then again, I've also really liked what is it? Marvel Knights of Steel, or sorry, DC Knights of Steel.
DC Knights of Steel.
Yeah.
See, now I love that.
But like, I also like it's weird too because I don't really like love fantasy. But like, I mean, obviously, I love Game of Thrones. You know, like I liked Harry Potter.
Yeah,
you know, I like some fantasy stuff. Like, I guess when you're talking like high fantasy, right? Like, I do like most Star Wars stuff, but
well, like you know, Chris the Common Vet and I are big DC versus vampires. I love it. I don't, and I look at it for what it is. It's silly, but like, you know, again, I'm with you on the same page when it comes to the what was it, the dinosaur one? I even saw that and was just like, this to me is ridiculous. But DC versus vampires, which is just as silly, but I read it and I was like, okay, I can get behind this just because they just don't care. They just kill. And like right off the rip, they're like, all right, you got to go. And it gave me that Game of Thrones feeling to it. You know, it was like, they don't care who you are. You can die in this. And this is kind of cool. So I don't know.
That's Matthew Rosenberg, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. I know that he writes one and then there's that other, isn't there another DC book? Like there's like a zombie one that isn't
That's the deceased one.
Isn't there a different zombie one too? I don't know. I thought that there were like 3 of those books, but maybe it's deceased.
I know they had one called Unkillables.
Oh yeah, I didn't read that one though. I didn't read Unkillables.
But I really like Matthew Rosenberg, but I like read it and I was like, this was when I was starting to come my pull list, and I was like, that's a book that I know I'm probably not gonna like, but I like the author, but I'm probably not gonna like it. And worst case scenario, I can just check it out on Hoopla when it finally drops on Hoopla and read it that way.
Well, you know, Tom Taylor is doing the deceased one. And so everybody, and that would kind of segue into one of my other questions was, you know, favorite artist, favorite, you know, storyteller type thing.
Yeah. So like favorite author, I've got probably like a top 5, right?
Okay.
And it's probably like,
give me those top 5 authors, because that was what I was, you know, I'm always curious to see who, for me, it's always been, you know, well, not always been, but when I was younger, for me, a comic was about the art and the story was secondary. For my brother, it was about the story and the art was secondary. So we had 2 different views of opinion on that. But now, as I've gotten older and realized, you know what, I do need a decent story because some of these artists are not making it for me. So I need to at least have a decent story. So hit me with your top 5.
Yeah. Cole. So when it comes to like the older class, like more classic telling stuff, I like Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison is fantastic. Like Animal Man is one of my favorite runs. Doom Patrol is also great.
You're right there with my brother. He loved that Doom Patrol and the Animal Man run.
It's weird because it's like that was like indies at the time, right? And it's superheroes. And like Superman is in Doom Patrol. That's like how crazy it got, right? But Jeff Lemire is like one of my favorite all times, right?
Okay.
Everything he does for the most part is great. I mean, some of his newer stuff I haven't been as into, but still fantastic. I love Matt Kent. Like, I don't love Berserker, but like everything besides that, I loved Tom King. A lot of people hate him, but I love Tom King, right? He's willing to take a chance. Like so many people say, I hate comics because they're doing the same thing.
Right.
But yeah, sorry. But Tom King does, you know, he makes attempts, and I'm willing to take a risk on somebody that's willing to try something new, because 9 out of 10 times, well, I mean, with him, like most of the time I like it. And even, you know, half of his stuff, I think some people really like. I mean, I think they gave him too long on Batman. I mean, I still love that run, but it just made other people upset.
So my brother's going to kill me for this, but when we went to Baltimore last year, I got the, right as we were leaving, you know, it's almost like, I was like, wait, I still have money in my pocket and I want to go home penniless because if I bring it back, my wife's going to want it. So I remember we were walking by one vendor booth and they had like the entire stack, and it was all, you know, taped together, and it was Mr. Miracle. It was like that picture on your right there beside you, and I was like, and he's like, oh, you got to read that, that's really good. And I was like, okay. And I still haven't read it, but I think that's Tom King, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Issue 6 of that is probably in my top 5 favorite issues in comics. It's like they're storming Apocalypse, like Big Barda and Mr. Miracle, but they're also like talking about like, well, we're having a baby soon. How should we do our living room?
As
How
they're like fighting or something.
They're literally fighting people and discussing like marriage stuff, where it's just like you see that kind of storytelling that's like so much different, you know, where you're like, this is kind of crazy, but and yeah, so I mean, there's that, and I mean, I don't know. I love a lot of his stuff. You know, he just does a lot of this different stuff. But I really only gave you 4 answers.
But that's okay. I mean, you know, and the Matt Kent, you know, that I took the one time I took my wife to Baltimore Comic-Con. We went by, and this would have been like, I don't know, 20. Shoot, I don't even know if it was 27, maybe 16 or something. I don't know. Matt Kent was there. And she just walked by his booth, and he wasn't, you know, this is way pre-Berserker, and he had done Mind Management, and she sat there and read like one issue, and then started talking to him and his wife, and she came over and found me, and she goes, I want all of those. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, all of these. And so it's like, I don't know how many issues it was. It was like almost a damn short box. We got all the floppies. Issues. Yeah, we got 30 issues. She goes, yeah, we're taking all of these home. And I'm not going to say no because it's a comic book. I was like, yes, I have no idea who this is, but yes. And then she was like, yeah, I want all of his stuff. So whenever she sees anything, but I said, you don't want to read Berserker. So, that's not going to be the same thing.
This is how cool Matt Kent is, right? I bought this at C2E2. This is what I did.
Whoa,
that's amazing.
And this took him 5 minutes, right? But still, somebody came there, was like, hey, I have 5 of these hardcovers, and he drew in 5 of them for that dude. Nice. Like, I have a few other books like this, but this one just happened to be here because I used this at one point. We were talking about autographs, and it's like, you know, him and his wife. So actually, he drew this. His wife did the coloring in because she colored this book.
Oh, wow. I have that.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's like it's an underwater like mystery thriller, and like
I'm a sucker for underwater. Can you send me a pic of that later so I can look for that?
Yep, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I guess I lied. So my 5th would be Ed Brubaker, probably. I don't know. I like the mystery stuff.
You got Gore here. Matt Kent's management was Jason Bourne, done by Nolan Brothers and Comic Form.
Yeah, it's awesome. But the thing that I think some people get, like the hardest thing for Matt Kent that some people just don't like, is that when he does his art, it's not like, I love this kind of art, but it's not for everyone.
That wasn't for me, but she didn't care about that at all. Didn't phase her, but
yeah, I mean, if you can, I think he's like one of those people, and he too just kind of uses odd, you know, writers. So I think this is, it's funny that you mentioned art because this piece is from Sean Daly. So he was a guy that did some like Source Point Press stuff, and when COVID happened, he opened up a free, like, or not free, but he was like, I can't do Comic Cons. First 10 people to send me $100, I'll do something for them. So I got this from him. And he's one of my favorite, like when it comes to it, like he does these kind of like cartoony things, but I just love the way that it looks. You know, I don't know. It's weird for like artists in books. I would say like Fiona Staples, you know, in Saga, that's like, she does art where like almost any panel is good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like crazy to me, right? Because you like read certain stuff where there's just so many wasted panels, where I think with her, it's just like every single panel is great. I mean, a lot of people don't agree with this, but I love Peach Momoko's covers. Like, I only cover by for like 3 people, and it's her, David Nakayama, and Art Germ. Like, those are the covers that I kind of like, and they're all very different. I mean, David Nakayama and Art Germ are fairly similar, but you know, they just make women for the most part. But I don't know. I love Peach Momoko. I mean, it's kind of hard. You know, art for me, I've never been like huge. It's very rare that it's like I'll buy a book for the artist, because I just kind of, don't focus on it. But like, yeah, like if Fiona Staples was ever in a book, I would probably, like, if she did the art in a book, I'd probably read it.
Now you're the opposite of Jim, because Jim's more of an art buyer than a story buyer.
That's what I told him. That's why I asked him who his authors were, because now I'm trying to, some of the artists out there may not be that great, but if the story's strong enough, I might be able to get, muscle through it. John's telling him exactly who he has to look up.
Yeah, I've read the first volume of the Invincibles. I've read Omega Men. Omega Men is probably my least favorite Tom King story, but it's still a solid Tom King story. I mean, I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I just don't like
the one who wrote Superwoman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Right.
And that was one of my favorite reads last year. All the issues of that were amazing, and it made you look and understand Supergirl in a whole new light.
Yeah, I think I DM'd you when I read the first issue and was like, "Have you read this?" Because I think I sent you a copy of the first issue, actually.
Oh, I think I loved it, dude. I read all of them.
I said, this reminds me of if they wrote Supergirl as like what I haven't read a lot of Conan, but if they were writing Supergirl as if she was Conan, that's what I thought it like reminded me of. So I was like, I think you would love this maybe, but you could hate it.
No, I absolutely loved it. I love the art style in it too. I thought it fit his storytelling so well. Like that 8 issues, that's one I'm gonna reread again and again. I really, really love that 8-issue run. Now, this is something odd, but there's a ton of underutilized characters in comics. So what is an underutilized character you would like to see more? And also, if you guys take suggestions for cover challenges, why not a top 10 covers that feature underutilized characters in each person's opinion?
Yeah, that one is definitely a cool one that I think would like definitely. So I think starting next year, we're gonna have to go into these like weird you decide stuff, because I think we've kind of done most of the things. We have a few other topics, but I like that idea because it definitely changes the script, right? Because like one person might say that I'm just trying to think of somebody that Catwoman, right? Some people are like Catwoman is underutilized, but like also Catwoman has is on 40 issues of a book right now, right? But some people might say that she's underutilized, and that's a valid point if you think that she should have more books. I mean, Batman has 37 books out. I mean, that's a farce. But for me, we kind of talked about this with Grant Morrison, but I would say Animal Man is kind of that person that I wish was in the world a little bit more. It's like last time was when Jeff Lemire was writing them. I know Tynan and Ram V on their Justice League Dark, he was in it for 3 issues, but loosely it was just here's an obscure guy that's in this story,
right? Well, and I would agree that he's obscure because I don't know anything about Animal Man. I can't say I've ever read a book with him in it.
Yeah, Grant Morrison did something that was pretty cool that I think kind of changed comics with that. In his run, he wrote himself or themselves inside of the story. So Grant Morrison is a character in DC universe because they did that. And but there's also an issue where Animal Man's out in the desert doing drugs, trying to find himself. And this is a guy that gets his powers from assuming it. So his was a little bit different, where I think when Grant Morrison wrote it, you had Animal Man had to be near animals to get their powers. And I think when Jeff Lemire wrote it, it was a little bit different, where it was just kind of, he could do them, or one of them had to be near the animal to kind of assume it. So it's spiders were great, or ants, because they're kind of always around, but super strength when you're an ant, right? But yeah, that would be a character I'd like to see. I mean, most of the Doom Patrol, when Gerard Way kind of came back and was doing stuff, he wrote the Doom Patrol, and that was fun because you could just do fun stuff, right? It's just wacky and zany, and maybe Superman shows up, and that's wild that Superman's hanging out with these weird guys that are literally have a character that's a street named Danny. I'm trying to think of Marvel gets a little bit harder for me. If you would have asked me this question a while back, I would have probably said Moon Knight, but Moon Knight is probably one of the best books at Marvel. But there was like 2 or 3 years where Moon Knight just didn't have a book.
Right. No, that's valid because I mean, he's got a resurgence, but he was dead in the water for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire did it, and then the singer of there was this emo band called Say Anything. Their singer Max Bemis wrote like 7 issues, and then it stopped until the most recent run.
Man, is that just what's it called? You talked about Gerard Way. That's My Chemical Romance, right? That's the guy. He's also the one that did Umbrella Academy, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And so he did Young Animal was a DC imprint that came out. Grant Morrison is in a My Chemical Romance music video as a bad guy.
Wow.
Like he plays the villain. Okay. And so they talked, and I think Gerard Way has said Grant Morrison is who Gerard Way has like based his writing off of. So there's definitely some very similar similarities where, you know, some of this stuff is weird and zany and wild, but it's still awesome. You know, I think Gerard Way is pretty good, you know, like for being a guy that wrote emo music that I was like mildly a fan of, sort of, I guess, you know, he did some really good stuff with comics, you know.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy solid, you know, his Doom Patrol is good. Yeah, he had that whole imprint. So they had like what was on that? There was a book called Mother Panic. What is the Joe the Green Lantern? Far Sector. That was that was one of the Young Animals. That's not written by him, but I don't know. There were a few other books that he was writing too, but they kind of slipped my mind. But there was this wild time where Gerard Way got his own imprint at DC.
Wow,
that's really cool.
I always wanted something with Elongated Man. Remember Elongated Man, or even for that matter, Plastic Man. Do a 6-issue episode of the Plastic Man. That would be fine with me.
Yeah. Gail Simone actually wrote Plastic Man like 4 or 5 years ago.
Did he?
There was a book. I never read it because it was like the first issue. They didn't have it by the time I got to the shop, and my shop owner was like, "I can probably get you another copy," and I was like, "Eh." More comic books.
Yeah, that'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, that was after Death Metal. So it was after Death Metal because there was this big thing of he was actually in the Terrifics too, which Jeff Lemire wrote, and that's a pretty underrated superhero book too. The Shade the Changing Man, that was one of them too. And it might have been a girl though. Shade the Changing Girl, I think, because the original was Shade the Changing Man.
Right, I do remember them making a new one with a woman. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just weird because there's all these things. I'm trying to think of other Marvels. That's the hard thing. Most of the Marvel stuff I know is just like random. Like, I mean, I've been reading Spider-Gwen a little bit because it's my daughter's favorite character. But I've mostly just read like Moon Knight, a few other random things. I'm trying to look around. Right. Oh, I've read like all of Immortal Hulk, and I'm reading the current Hulk. I'll read most of the stuff Donny Cates does because, like, love him or hate him, I think that he's worth reading because people are going to be talking about it.
Right.
And he just does wild, crazy stuff.
His Thor has been fun, although I have to get back into reading it again. The whole Banner War thing isn't for me.
Yeah, it was fine.
I dropped that Hulk as soon as they went spaceship. I was like,
I thought that was fun.
I can't.
That was issue 1.
I think I dropped it after like 2-3 issues, and then
it was issue 3 that they kind of really did that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I dropped it after 1 though. I couldn't.
Well, especially following up a hard horror title like that, you know.
I mean, but I guess it's weird, right? It's a big change, but I think you almost have to, right? Because are you gonna do you think you can top that?
Well, right. You have to go in a different direction. You got to swing for something else. You can't just do what the last person did. You know, that was I equate that as a thankless task, like when, you know, the next artist that had to follow Todd McFarlane on Spider-Man. Luckily, I thought Eric Larson knocked it out of the park and did great. But who wants to be that guy, right? And then you have this historic run on the Hulk. Who wants to be the guy to follow that up by Al Ewing? Yeah. The guy that just got all these accolades for all these years for taking this character and elevating his status.
Which, speaking of Eric Larson, have you seen him draw before?
No.
You should YouTube it.
Yeah.
He draws like, I don't even know how to explain it, but he draws like this kind of. It's really weird and bizarre. Like he holds a pencil, like, people hold a pencil like this. He has it like here or something weird and draws like this. And it's so weird. And they're like, why do you draw like that? And he was like, because no one told me not to. Wow. And I just kept drawing like that, right? He got used to it. It's really bizarre. I only know this because I was at the shop talking about it because I thought it was really funny. There's this line. The Comic Burrito, we would get review copies and we got image stuff. So when we got image books, I said that I was going to do my due diligence and read every issue of Spawn and every issue of Savage Dragon, because those are like long running books. And it's like, I'm coming in at like issue 298 and like 220. So it's like, it doesn't make sense. But like there was a comment in the first issue of Savage Dragon. He's like, he's having sex with his wife. He finishes and she flies in the air. And then he catches her in his palm and she says something like, breaking the fourth wall, your book is pretty much a sex book at this point and people know it. And I'm like, what the heck? Is this what Savage Dragon has always been? Which I think is very different now than like, the 90s. But I'm just like, that's the first. So I just kept reading it and I was like, how is this book real? It's so weird. I think there's an issue where he fights poop monsters and stuff where it's just like, what's going on here, Clarkson? But I think he just kind of like ran out of things to do and was like, let's just see how weird I can make this book.
That is nuts. I never even heard of that like that.
Yeah, it's wild. I think I might be able to dig up a screenshot and send it to you because it's like the weirdest thing. And I took a screenshot of it. Like, did people actually put this in an image comic book? I mean, like, this is the thing. It's like indies. You can kind of do whatever you want, but like, really, that was a thing that you decided needed to be put in paper?
Somebody okayed all that.
And it's still every issue of Savage Dragon ranked higher for me than any issue of Spawn. So sorry, people that really like Spawn. I just thought Savage Dragon was funny and different enough that it was like, okay, let's do this.
And I loved his Spider-Man. I thought his Spider-Man was awesome.
His art's pretty good. I mean, like, that's the crazy thing. Like, a lot of people will say, like, Savage or like Spawn, that's such a crazy record. But I've heard other people say the same thing. Like, you've got to give more respect to Eric Larson because he's been writing and drawing that book for 230 some issues, right? Like,
yeah,
or Spawn, it's like, they've changed artists in it. It's, not, but like, I don't know, drawing books seems crazy.
Oh yeah. Twitter stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we've been going almost an hour and a half, so we're going to start the wrap up here. But my final question for you is, what is the most unexpected thing that's happened to or for you since you've become a YouTube content creator? Oh, we broke them.
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, like, there's so many different things, right? Like, so Comic Book Poser, like, that dude pretty much traded me. Like, I had a 5th printing. I've been talking about, like, one of my Grail books was Saga #1. I had a 5th printing of Saga, and he was like, I'll trade you that in $20 for my Saga #1. And like, because he knew, it's like, that's a book that means something to you, and it doesn't really mean anything to me. Like, I could sell it, but like, that doesn't matter. And like, another book he took, because I told him about mind management and what it meant to me, he found a copy of that book signed by Matt Kant with a remark, bought it, and sent it to me because he was like, I felt like I wanted to do something nice. And it's crazy that there's people that I've met on the internet that like do nice stuff, like, I try and do nice stuff when I can. And like, if there's a book that I have that it's like, at the end of the day, maybe I can make $20 out of this, but if I could send it to somebody and they're going to be happy because of it, that's so like wild to think. I mean, like, there's other really cool stuff. Like, I got to talk to Scott Snyder on a YouTube show because we just randomly asked him if he wanted to talk about Noctera, and he was like, I got nothing better to do tonight. Sure. Like, oh, what? This is happening? Okay, let's do this.
And I love Noctera. It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It's been fun. It's a good action book. I think I dropped the floppies just because I got so far behind, but it's like, I can still read, like a trade of that, and it's good. It's like, there's books like Firepower too that is just like, this is mindless action movie stuff, but I love it.
I had to drop Firepower. I was so done with it.
It takes like 4 minutes to read an issue. That's why I kind of love it sometimes, right?
But it also took 12 issues to get to one place, and you're just like, this is worse than Lord of the Rings. Like, it's just they're just walking the entire time, running, going, jumping out of plane, and you're just like, I'm done. Nothing's going on. Nothing.
Who's your bedtime book? Get you in the mood to sleep.
Yeah. Right.
It's like that Rick Remender Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. Boom, done in like 3 minutes because there's hardly no words to it.
But still an awesome book, man.
Oh, I'm loving it.
I read the trade on the way to Vegas like 3 times in 45 minutes. And it's like because I'm actively like looking for different stuff.
Right. What John said is true.
Mm-hmm.
It is. We'll put it back up there.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's just wild. Or just meeting random people, right? Like that's a thing where I went to Las Vegas and met a dude that I met because of YouTube talking about comics, right? You know,
I think my wife thinks that stuff is kind of funny sometimes. Like, so you're like when we met, when we went to Heroes Con, my brother and I, we got to meet Remy, Chip. Chip just randomly popped up, and I think. I can't speak for him, but for me, I was more excited just to meet the people. I mean, I was glad that we were going to what I would call a true Comic-Con, but she thinks that's like, but you don't know these people, but through this, and I'm like, I don't care. They seem, I feel closer to them than I do some of these people that are around here that, that are, I don't know. I don't think it's weird at all.
I think that's a unique thing to the comic book community too, is, anyone in the comic book community is usually willing to meet somebody else if they're close.
Right.
Oh, yeah, let's hook up. Well, I mean, I've met a few people here locally in Rochester. Didn't think anything of it. Yep, I'm going to this comic shop. I'll see you there in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, disc golf was kind of the same way, and I went to like Georgia to play disc golf with a bunch of people that I met off the internet. My wife was like, "This also seems weird, but like, I guess I don't know. I'm just marrying somebody that's weird."
Right? Okay. You should have just told her, "How are you not used to this by now?"
Yeah, exactly right.
It's not going to get any different.
You knew what you signed up for after like spending like 5 to 7 days with me.
Yeah.
Well, she stuck around for the mustache, right?
Yep.
That's right.
She actually probably prefers it too, which is like at least sort of nice. It's always like weird when people are like, or like, you're with a couple and they're like, I hate his mustache. And it's like, well, then why don't you shave it?
No, I did never ask. Is your wife a fan of the mustache?
Yeah, I mean, she wishes I probably could get a beard, but she's fine with the mustache.
Yeah.
Because,
so she's disappointed in the mustache.
Yeah, it's an okay thing, right?
Okay.
I don't.
That's it's weird because I've had the goatee now for years and years, and every once in a while I shave it off. And first of all, it looks like I'm 20 years younger. I feel, and then I don't. Even if I look at myself in the mirror, I don't feel like I'm looking at me. It's just odd.
Right. Right.
Like, it's just weird how even a little bit of facial hair completely changes
a person,
the kind of look you have.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Chip shaved his off, but I was like, who is this? I don't even know who this is. I was like, who is this making this video pretending to be White Shadow?
Right.
I demand him back.
This is an imposter.
This is an imposter.
And what a great nickname that is that Remy came up with for Chip. White Shadow is just awesome. Oh, goodness. Gents, did you have any final questions?
I did not.
No, actually, I did not. Gary, you hit on a lot of the ones that I had questions on, just like how your relationship with the Burrito Boys happened, like how did you know each other, and just finding out that you and Nick actually knew each other before you and Todd. I thought it was the other way around, so I did not know the origin story to all that, so that was really cool hearing all about that. So
Yeah, and technically, I think I only met Nick once before this, and I'd never met Todd. And it's like, hey, I'm at your house now. It was really funny because he left, he went outside, and his daughter was like leaving his house, and she was like, went to give me a hug, and like I had a mustache, so like I was just like, I also don't know this 5-year-old kid, and I was like, I don't know what to do in this situation, so I think I just gave her a double high five and like let her walk away because I was like, I was like, I didn't know him enough, and I was like, if he just walks in and I'm like hugging his daughter, like this could be the strangest thing. But I said that to him, and he was like, "Oh no, she hugs anyone. If I walked in, I would have just assumed she was like, give me a hug, I'm leaving." But it was just like this weird thing where it's like,
yeah, but I mean,
I don't know this person, and I'm in his house, and his daughter asked me to hug her, and I don't know what to do. So double high five.
No, I think you played that right, Cole. I think you played that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes one misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Jim, what's coming up on your channel, sir?
Now that I'm in recovery, I have a few packages back here that came in. One is like a win. The other one's something that I ordered, so I'm going to shoot some video of that. I won a slab and some books, I think, that's in the box from DC Irish. Ooh. Had his 100 giveaway, over 100 giveaways. So, yeah, so that's one of them. And I don't know what I ordered, but it's, just another box with some stuff. So I'm sure it's comics. I just can't remember which one it was. So I'll make a video of that. Maybe I'll get out and shoot some footage if I ever get to get out to the world again after this COVID crap. So that's it.
And Panda, what's coming up for you, sir?
So I've been working a lot and just focusing on that. So channel's not really on a hiatus, just trying to jump in when I can and try to do a Sunday live show. But as of recently, haven't been able to actually sit down and do a Sunday live show. But, things are happening.
They're in motion.
Yeah. Stuff is turning.
Things are definitely moving. Coming up for my channel. So next up on Saturday, on the 10/11 Saturday edition, we have Pocan Joe on that night. So that ought to be a fun episode. Then on the Tuesday edition, we have Officially Unofficial on the 10/11. And then next, we have a 10/11 streak. And next Thursday, Dope Comics is coming on to do a special Thursday night, the 10/11, because that's when he can make it on. So next week, we won't have it in the hot seat. It's going to be a 10/11 special week. So we got, we'll have like 4 episodes of that in a row. And because we go from that then to Gene Malo. So we got a lot coming on. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we got Savage Saturday Comic Review coming up Saturday, which I have a nice little niche group of people that watch that. So, it gets my Conan fix in every week, and I get to talk about it with the community and my little Savage side. Cole, what's coming up for you, sir?
Yeah, tomorrow I might release a video where I talk about my most anticipated comics that are coming out the next week. Usually Monday I open something and do a giveaway, and I don't know. I'll probably open cards in between them. I usually am doing a short. I try and do one every day, but sometimes I don't make them happen. But yeah, I've been working on kind of a idea of like a next sort of a thing. So that's coming up. I think I'm like 15 subs away from 500. So I'll probably do a giveaway at some point.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, October is my birthday. So I might just do a birthday stream where I open like 37 packs of cards.
It's not
you can guess how old,
right?
By that random number of cards that I'm
37 packs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It isn't October 12th, is it?
It definitely is.
Is it really?
Yeah, is that your birthday?
No, it's my wife's.
Oh, dude, so many people have that birthday. It's like,
yeah, really I was like, weird. It's not October 12th, is it?
It really is. Yeah, so many people have that birthday. It's a big birthday, I've come to realize. Like, literally, I feel like if I talk to 10 people, one of them is like, I know someone with that birthday.
Yep.
Wow. See, my sister's is October 6th.
Yeah, she missed the boat. She
Yeah,
should have been on the 12
she,
like Cole.
she should have held out 6 more days, and she could have the
missed the
same
boat.
birthday
That's her
as
fault.
me and Jimmy.
My mom's fault.
Yeah, your mom couldn't hold it for
Could've held
6 more
that baby
days.
for 6 more days.
What was she thinking?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
She got lazy towards the end and just like,
And on that note,
all right, guys, I want to thank everyone in the audience who came out to support these gentlemen. Everyone's links is in the description below. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting the show. Please sub up Digger Jim, sub up Pandawesome. Please sum up our guest Cole. You just heard him. He's 15 away from 500. So if you're watching this and you are not subbed up to him, let's get him over that mark. Cole, thank you so much for coming on, man. I had a great time. And I know the gents did. Really nice to finally sit down and get to talk to you for an hour, man. I don't think we ever got to just talk on YouTube. It was a lot of fun, man. Hope we can do it again.
Yeah, it was.
Heck yeah.
Because, I'm going to make you dig in those stacks for the 10-1-1 one day.
Oh, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Hey.
I probably already I'll loosely freestyle it. Oh, sorry. That was
They have to have meaning and soul there, Cole. That's to have a hidden story there.
Yeah.
Right? These guys have been on.
Yeah.
This book I bought.
Right?
Yeah. I lost my virginity. This book.
There you go.
Right. So that was a Savage Dragon book, right?
Yeah.
All
right, guys. Until next time, everyone, thank you once again. And until then, keep it casual.
Bye.